I'm here with professional hockey player Jason Grinovich. How are you, Jason?
Jacko, doing well.
Good. How's the weather?
Weather's hot, buddy.
Same
Weather's
here.
hot.
Toasty and nice.
I'm more of an ice guy, Jacko. You know that.
Yeah, toasty and it's crispy out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so today I'm going to talk a little bit. Yeah, something bugs me, and it's bugged me a lot for the last many years with the hockey. Talk about pro hockey, NHL, just hockey in general.
Yep.
What do you got to say?
Well, I mean, hockey in general is that's tough because I mean the game has gotten fast. It's gotten there's creativity and all that kind of stuff. But to me, I guess what bothers me the most about hockey now is we were known as warriors.
Yes.
Warriors. Like we played through pain. We played through. It was what you did. We were, that's what we did.
Yes.
And nowadays, man, a kid's got a boo boo, and it's like, yeah, I can't play today. And it's just you get bumped in the corner, and it's like, ooh, I think my shoulder might hurt.
Or in practice, they get offended if they get hit in practice.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, your practice should be war. Your practice is leading up to a game. So if you're a coach, Jacko, do you want to get into that topic of coaches and practices and that?
No, we already talked about those guys. I don't want to talk about the coaches. I want to talk about the attitude of the players. I think it's a little bit different now with all the money they make. They're like prima donna, I believe. I just don't see them like the guys from the past, as far as like more down to earth players. I don't know. It's just a little different with the attitude and everything. You can read people pretty well.
Well, Jacko, I'm gonna go into a bit of the coaching into that.
Okay.
Because I think that has something to do with it. So I watch a lot of hockey up here in Canada, and I watch the way the Brooks Bandits. I'm obviously from Alberta.
Yeah.
Brooks Bandits practice. I watch the way Spruce Grove practices.
Right.
I watch the way, and it's a war, and they battle. But guess what
it's
they
not
do?
like that in the United States. It's completely different in the junior league.
But Jacko, guess what they do? They win. I've watched. I've asked for video from a friend of mine from in the Null, the Alaska Ice Dogs.
Yes.
Who are they're always in the Null. They're one of the teams you want to play for.
Null, tell people what Null is. It's North American Hockey League, so it's a junior league. It's a tier 2 program.
Yeah. It's the best developmental league in the United States. The majority of the USHL is already signed in that, but from a developmental standpoint, they're the best in the industry. Yeah. In my opinion, I'm not saying that that's gospel, but I watch the way they practice, and it's a war. That's the way we played, and if you don't fit that mold, you're gone. You're out.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why they win, and kids today, they don't believe in hitting their buddy in practice.
No.
And well, how do you make him better for a game?
Well, it's all trickles down from the NHL. I think no offense, I'm European, I'm Swedish, but bringing a lot of European into the NHL has made the NHL a lot softer, I think.
Well, no, it hasn't. It hasn't. There are definitely some Europeans. I mean, you look at Victor Hedman.
Ovechkin can hit. I mean, Kronwall was a hitter, but we're talking like the game is, if you hit now, it's more like a marketing. You can't hit a superstar because then he's not going to sell. It's a business. So if someone touches like, I know, Crosby or McDavid, you could be in big trouble because that's marketing. That's bringing in fans to the building. People are coming to sit and watch him play. So there's kind of like this unwritten rule where you can't really like hammer a guy like.
But Jack, look what Gary Bettman said.
Oh, don't bring the name up.
That's probably 20 years ago now. 20 years ago now.
Yeah. We
want to make this Disney friendly.
Well, it's like Slapshot 2. Remember the cable guy bought that league and he tried to turn it into you remember he brought the figure skating guru coach to teach them how to be artists and performers?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what turned into.
But that's what it is. And Gary Bettman said that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to turn it into a Disney-friendly event.
Yeah,
because no parent wants to take their kids to a bloodbath. Well, and hockey never was. I mean, I'm not going to say never was. I mean, you look at the Broad Street Bullies, and okay. But where we? Yeah, I'm not saying it never was. I'm just saying, the game was the game, and it was progressing nicely. And what he did was he killed that game. That intensity. That's why everybody. You look at Coliseums full in the playoffs. Why? Why does everybody want to go? Yeah, because their team's competing for the Stanley Cup. Sure.
Yes.
That is symbol. Oh, hey, I'm at a playoff game. Selfie, snappy, Insta tweet, Snapagram, all that stuff that the kids do. Yeah. But the reality of the beast is they're there because the intensity is so high.
Yes. There's no intensity in some of these games. I go and watch.
There's none. It's a shitty game, Jack. It's what we did at Parkland.
Parkland was more intense than these games. I mean, our Parkland games were very intense. I mean, it was like a war.
It's when you're comparing summer training to what they look like now on the ice, that is ridiculous.
Yes.
Absolutely ridiculous.
I mean,
that's not, and I get it. It's an 80-some game season. You don't want to hurt your top player. I get that. Your top player's not getting. Look at, a prime example is go to Wayne Gretzky highlights.
Yes.
And he's got, great goals and great, all that kind of stuff. Sure. But look how many guys, if you actually watch games, they're grabbing his jersey. He's still classified as the best player ever to live in the game.
Yeah. Bobby Orr and him, I would say. Bobby Orr. Bobby Orr got hit quite a bit.
I would still say, Jacko, Mario Lemieux was the best player in the game. He just had cancer and unfortunate circumstance, but he would have beat Gretzky, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Limited games, numbers, you look at all that kind of stuff and stats and but anyway, we're not going to get into that.
No.
But, he's in there. You can't cancel out Gordie Howe.
No,
for
Gordie
sure.
Has been there. Tough, too. Was tough.
So, I mean, you look at all that kind of stuff, and these guys grueled and battled. The kids nowadays have the easiest coast of their life and can't even touch their numbers.
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, U.S. hockey, when I played compared to Canadian hockey, I got body checked 5 times all year in the USHL. That would be in one game in a Canadian game. Well, it was a big difference in the hitting. Canadian, this attitude of the hockey was a war in practice. It was never like that when in Sweden was not like that for me at all. Playing in Sweden, it was just not a war. It was just more like, you go through the motion of the drills at high tempo, but there was no battle. You know what I mean?
But here's the flip, Jack. Here's the flip.
Yeah.
So obviously being, still a bit involved in hockey and that kind of stuff, Canada is trying to model their game after Finland.
Yeah.
That's not what we want to do.
No. We got to keep it the way it is. I mean, Canadian hockey, they've won more championships than anybody else. I mean,
But guess what USA Hockey is trying to model themselves after? Work ethic and compete now. They're trying to get these kids to compete, small area, battle drills,
everybody's doing battle drills, but they're not doing it right. It doesn't matter. They can do battle drills every day.
That comes down to coaching again.
Yeah, the coaching. Right? Yes, the coaching is not good.
Because you look at Jack, the way they play the game today is an X's and O's style of game.
Yes.
And I know a coach. I've watched him for years locally. He's a very strategic coach. Very strategic coach. His systems are good systems. I can't argue that. He will not break from that system. Regardless of whether he's winning or losing, he just believes his system will win.
But sometimes you need the guys to do a little bit on their own creativity. It's not there.
But Jack, that's what's missing.
Yeah.
Okay, you play within the structure, and I talk to my son about that all the time because he's trained like every other dog, right? So he wants to follow what the coach said, and I said, no, you gotta, if you want to be great, and he's a good hockey player, really good hockey player. If you want to be great, you fit in as much of what the coach is telling you into your game.
Yes.
But you can't take away from your game what you do. Because
That's
if
true.
that guy, and I went through this, in my younger years where, I did that, but I trained at Hockey Alley, and that's the way you guys taught me, and my dad taught me the same way. You fit in as much as you can, but you always play your game.
You got to play your game because that's how you get noticed.
If that coach is giving you trouble,
and most
because
of them
you scored
do.
a goal, but it was outside the system, that's not a coach.
No, he's got to be a mentor and an encouragement, and that's not happening. I don't see much of that.
Well, he's got to adapt to the game, Jack.
They're not.
He's got to adapt to the fact that, hey, this kid broke my system, but it worked.
Yeah.
Now I got to adapt a little bit better because, his brain is maybe smarter than my brain. And I think coaches right now are thinking they're bigger than the game.
And
so
do you think they're learning everything on the
game
internet
without the coach?
But they're learning everything
wrong.
on the internet. These coaches aren't real coaches. They go on the internet, they pick drills. They're not like creating this stuff. They go on the internet, they pick stuff. Okay, I'm going to use this tonight in the practice. This looks good. And they go to the practice and they run it. And then the kids don't understand it and they don't explain it right.
Well, no, it is true because they can't do it. If they can't, I've always said, there are a lot of smart people out there, and I don't want to. This is
were you talking U.S. and Canada? You're talking two different hockey here. If you're talking American
hockey, I think they're at the point where they're the same. I think U.S. is slowly getting in a better direction, where Canada, I think, is going downhill. And I don't want to talk about the World Championships or the World Juniors or whatever. That is what it is, right? Yeah. But I'm saying that what I look at is the players aren't really thinking the game the way they should be thinking the game. So they go to the NHL and they don't pan out.
No, they don't.
Like that.
Who is that guy?
What's that right kid that was supposed to go?
The Shane Wright guy.
He was supposed to. Well, is there a reason why he didn't go first overall?
His attitude.
For sure there.
Maybe the attitude's bad.
Maybe and that's why when you look at and they kind of without saying it said it when he glared back at Montreal and he glared back a second time. That's not a professional.
No.
You look at a kid like Cale Makar and his attitude and how he presents himself. That's if Cale Makar was ranked first and went fourth, fifth, whatever he did, sixth, Cale Makar would have put on a smile and I'll just show you. Yeah. I don't need to have that attitude, right? And that's one of those things that you got to look at is how you carry yourself as an athlete and what you do. Those kids now, I can go into a lot of hockey players that I don't like that are high-ranked kids, and it's not about that. And you look at the NHL draft, and a lot of the guys that play in the NHL, they're not top 3 round draft picks.
No. They just made it because of hard work and good attitude.
Hard work and good attitude will make you so much farther than anything.
What about getting rid of the draft?
Well,
I'm saying open it up to, because look, if you play junior hockey and the coach doesn't like you and you have a lot of skill, you never get seen, right? So you don't get drafted. So why don't you just make it where if you played 1 year of junior or 1 year of college, you're eligible to have an open tryout for any team that you choose. Up to 1,000 guys per team every year. Why not?
They do have that, right?
But I'm talking for everybody. I'm talking everybody.
No, everybody has open skates. Like they definitely
but you got to know someone
it's invitational.
To get in. Yeah, you got to know. I'm talking open it up where there's no scouts scouting you, and you get picked when you go to the tryout. So it doesn't matter what kind of season you had in juniors, because you might have not gotten played. If the coach doesn't like you, you're not going to get seen. And
but Jacko, that's there's so much money invested in that. I don't know if you can break that. And I don't disagree. There's I don't disagree with that. Give a kid a chance. And there is the odd kid that gets a chance and goes to college
but not
and
many.
does his thing. Well, no, it's becoming more and more.
But what if you open it up to any team and then the guy's like, hey, I didn't want to get picked by this team, but they took me. Here, this guy can go to any team he wants and say Ottawa has 500 spots open for the summer. Kings have, maybe 200 spots open. So guys can choose where they want to go. And then when they're there, the scouts can watch, evaluate each kid. You can be dropped out in 5 minutes, so you can stay for the week. And then from there, get invited to main camp. And so forth goes to the American League. So the guys who don't make the NHL, they drop to the American League. They can do the same routine. And if they want to,
that's
that would be the best.
I mean that's tough, but I mean it is a business, it is a market, and there is planning that has to go around that because you got to build your team, right?
Yeah, I sat with the scouts 3 games with the NHL scouts. I don't know if you know that. Did you know that or no?
No, I didn't.
I sat with scouts 3 different times. One game there was 5 scouts with me. Another game was about 7. Another game was about 2. They just joke a lot. Like if the guy got hit, they make like fun of him. Like the guy gets hit or something, and they're not really watching the whole game. They'll watch like a period and they'll leave. They're like a party. It's like a party group. It's an entourage that hangs out together and just drinks beer and parties. They're not there watching like their own. They're all like share information. Oh, who you watching? One guy says, I'm watching this guy. And the other guy, I told the one guy, he's like, why you share your information? He's like, oh, these guys are my friends. I'm like, there's nobody's friend. I would lure him and tell him, I'm looking at a different guy. Why would you want to give your, information out? So, and they're like, just like clowning around, the way they joke on the guys, I thought it was disrespectful. And I kind of didn't like that. So I think it'd be nice if they had that open. And a former player, how much knowledge does he really know about picking players? You know what? All these guys are former players.
You know what? I think there's some. I think there's some that do. I mean, I've sat with them, and it's been really professional. So I've got a different perspective on that. And they've been very professional. They really didn't talk a lot about the game. They kind of sat quiet. They chatted, but it was small talk. I went out for beers with them after.
Well, that's what they do. They like to drink beer afterwards. That's right.
Well, yeah. I mean, but that's kind of part of the game.
Well, I got to tell you something. Remember, you talked in another video where you mentioned that they don't come up to small towns, and I believe that's the reason. Is the scouts want to stay in the big cities? There's more of a nightlife than going to like a Flin Flon or somewhere out in a small town. They don't want to go and watch players in those areas, and I believe that's missing out on hockey. Those small towns.
They definitely are, but it comes down to the expense of the trip, right?
Well, so it doesn't cost that much more.
I guess if there's a kid tearing it up, yeah, for sure, right? They're going to go out there, but I mean, they're going to try and catch them in a bigger center because they're you gotta. I remember talking to one of my old coaches, and this was in May or June maybe this year, and he'd been away for like. It was ridiculous. It was like 80 some days. So like the whole January, February, March, April, May, June. I mean, he'd been away for 80 some days. He spends, I don't remember what the number was, but it was like 180, 90 some days on the road.
Right. That's a lot of days.
And flights and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, they're traveling and they're going, and eventually you just. It's kind of tough to keep your jam, right? Where you're engaged, and I get that, right? It's no different than what I do when I obviously I don't work in the hockey world anymore, but I mean, just kind of one of those things. It's tough to keep your jam. So there's times where your engagement in what you're looking at is not the same.
No, I really believe they opened it up. You're going to find a lot more gems. And I think that the scouts get hyped up on the numbers on the paper. Like, they get excited about this guy's points and stuff. But that's because the coaches maybe are playing them more. They get favoritism. Who knows if there's money being involved under the table to play these kids more? Who knows,
There is,
right?
Jack. There is, Jack.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Get rid of the draft. Get rid of the draft completely. Open it up to everybody. Look at Panarin. He's never been drafted. And look what he's done. Look at Datsuk. They drafted him 6th round. Almost at the end, and look what he did. I mean, it just tells you they don't really know. I asked the scouts, you guys know, who's going to make it? They go from 2nd round and on, we have no idea.
Well, yeah, but even your first round, you have no idea.
Well, they said the first top 30 picks, they do kind of have an idea, but really they don't.
They do, but they don't know whether they're going to pan out because nowadays they're all prima donnas.
Yes.
They don't. They don't want to work. You've classified them early in their career as. I wish the first scouting report, and I know that's media stuff and whatever. Yeah. I wish the first scouting report came out September 1st of their draft year. We never talked about a kid before then.
What about drafting them everybody at 20, or picking them at 20 years old, where when you're 20 years old, you finish junior hockey, you got the experience, you come to training camp, and then everybody gets a chance, in the summer, May to September, open it up. If you play college hockey at 20, you go to camp. Everybody who turns 20 years old, so don't have 18-year-olds in the league anymore because they're not mature. So maybe start them at 20 years old. What do you think?
I absolutely agree with that, Jacko. I absolutely agree that
might be the best
draft year should be significantly later because there's so many kids that they invest money in and time in that never pan out. Yeah. And it's not that it's not a good kid, but most of the time it's just the pressure, the media hype, the everything on that, it kills the kid.
Yes.
It kills him. He thinks he's made it. He thinks he's made it before he's actually stepped on the ice.
I've seen that happen many times with players. It's just a shame.
And you and I could list off some that we know that should have played that never played, but it was solely because it was just media hype at a young age, and they weren't there.
Do you remember Nathan Dempsey, the guy we used to play at Parkland? He was the very last pick in the draft, and he made it. And he was a very, very last pick.
But you know what, Jacko? That's where I'm saying is that I think once they get into the build of the team, the unfortunate part is their high-round draft picks, they always give a chance to.
Yeah.
Always
you get a tryout, even if you're 10 years later and you didn't make the NHL, you still get tryouts in the NHL for some team. Your chances are unlimited. And a guy like us, I never got my chance, and I don't know if you've gotten a chance. They just never gave me a chance. And I worked my ass off all my life playing hockey. I think I deserved a chance. And
and you know what? I never got a chance, but that was just kind of one of those things where, it is what it is, and I don't dwell on that. I don't hold it.
But what if they opened it? What if they opened it up for everybody, where you go for a week, and they give you that chance, and then you make it to the main campus, top 50 guys, and then from there, you'll come back next year, or they'll tell you you're done, or they'll drop you to American. You got choices. But at least you got your opportunity to say, you know what? I gave it my all. I got my chance. I didn't make it. You can end it on a good note. But when you don't get your chance, you can say, what if? What if I had that chance? What if and you worked hard for it. But you got some coaches that are really bad in these lower leagues that don't give you the chance because they didn't make it themselves, and they get jealous of the kids. And I think that's part of it, the jealousy. The coaches see this is a successful kid. They don't want him to make it because they never made it. And I see guys like, I had coaches like that, as you work.
I would like to hope that, even though I think that happens more than we think, I would like to hope that the coaches that win and progress their coaching career aren't going to do that. And I've watched a lot of successful coaches come through programs and not do that. And I
know one that would have done that, and you had him as a coach too.
I know. Yeah, I know.
You know which one we're talking about. I think he was one of them.
He was one of them. Yeah, he definitely was. He was not a good human being. He was not a
no.
He was not what he should have been, and he got progressed in his career, and he's obviously making, his money and still coaching, and
yeah.
One of those things that. That guy should not still be coaching.
No.
Because he has no in-game management. He has no idea of talent. He just pushes on what he pushes on. And, and maybe that's the game. Maybe that's the memorandum, and that's what they do. But I don't know that. So it's one of those things that I don't know the game. I just know the winning coach that's willing to think outside the box. And I listed off a couple organizations here in Alberta that they win, they do what they do, and they win.
Yeah.
They think outside the box, they do what they do, and they win.
Yes.
And you know what? That winning coach, he's going to get a job at the next level.
Yeah.
And when he wins again, he's going to get a job at the next level. And eventually he makes the highest level because he's a coach.
But the one thing that's, I think, like compared to Sweden and here is, and maybe college hockey I saw, is that the coaches are more like teachers and they're not like drill sergeants. Compared to like junior hockey, a lot of the coaches or even midget hockey or bantam, they put the kids down and the kids' confidence is down. I believe that's a big problem. And also the tryouts for little kids should not be trying out. Everybody should be playing the game at some level. They should not have tryouts for little kids unless it's like high level AAA. They should just open it up for everybody is what I think.
Well, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I mean, you should have your elite stream.
Yes.
Where they're just beyond that, because that's not going to be fun for them.
No.
But, lots of times those who mature early are not the best players. The ones that mature late are the best players.
I've seen that over the years with teaching so many players, and I've seen that 9 of my kids made the NHL, my students. They weren't the best players as kids, believe it or not. When they're older, they got into their prime, and I've seen a lot of younger kids like.
But
10
Jack,
and under,
you got to remember that
superstars.
they're training the right way.
Yeah, but
They
also
buy into the training, and they buy into the training,
yes.
and they don't buy in. And I know you live in a different market than I do.
Yes.
So, and I don't train hockey, but I mean, they don't buy into the market there, because there's I don't know whether that still exists, but I played for the Red Army, and I was, the guy's 36 years old, and he played for the Red Army.
They all played for the Red Army.
The Red Army hasn't existed in 50 years.
Well, Red Army's kind of like saying, like, you played for the junior Oilers. I mean, they probably play for the kids team, but everybody thinks Red Army's like Fedorov, Kovalev. But that was the main team. But they had like a 10-year-old team, 11. They could have played for those. But doesn't mean they played for the pro team.
Yeah, but not at 36, Jack. That team doesn't exist anymore. So that's where I laugh honestly when I look at these trainers, and there's 30 kids on the ice, and they're trying to organize something, and it's a joke, and they're getting like they pay, I don't know even what they pay down there, for training, but I mean, let's